What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and this game that you're looking at right now, as the title screen suggests, is Secret of Mana 2. That's right, Secret of Mana 2. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about Secret of Mana 2 in a minute once we get a bit further into the video, but I want to expand upon what this video is actually going to be about. So it's going to be expand a bit more on a topic that I've touched on previously several times before in relation to certain other games and certain other releases and certain other states of certain systems. Now that's pretty vague, but we'll narrow it down now in a second. So when you look at the current landscape and whatever your current economy of gaming consoles and handhelds we have. So this is mainly taking into consideration, the likes of the Xbox One, the PS4, the Wii U, the Switch, and the 3DS. And obviously, you could throw Steam in there as well. But the main reason I want to bring it up is because let's go back a year and a half. Okay, so let's go back to June of 2015. Now, some people will argue that's 2 years ago, simply because, 2015 and 2017, but that's not how it works. It is when I like to use that as in my purposes, but right now it's a year and a half ago. So if you remember, Nintendo surprised everyone, and they released what is now known as Earthbound Beginnings straight to the Wii U Virtual Console. So what that is, if you're not familiar with the situation or anything like that, obviously back in the day, Nintendo released Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. So that was the second game in a series, which many people will probably just assault me verbally in the comment section below because my accent will butcher the word, but it's the Earthbound on the Super Nintendo is the second game in the Mother series, or the Mother series. Mother, whatever you go. It's the second game in the Mother series. It's Mother 2. Now, America never had got Mother 1. And if my voice would hold up when I say that, America had never gotten Mother 1, which was originally released on the original NES. Not the Super Nintendo, but the actual NES. So Nintendo completely shocked everyone and released an official Nintendo translated ROM straight to the Wii U Virtual Console of Earthbound Beginnings. That blew everyone's mind, especially considering the fact that there's also a third game in the series, Mother 3, which came out much later on the Game Boy Advance, which obviously never got an official English translation. But at the same time, there is what's supposedly an excellent quality fan English translation, which had been sent to Nintendo after receiving, I think it's Miyamoto's blessing. I think it was him. But someone in Nintendo, someone high up in Nintendo, acknowledged and praised the fan work for the translation of Mother 3. And though the people behind it sent it to Nintendo, and they just said, hey, use this royalty free. Just please release the game. And Nintendo didn't. So Nintendo have been fairly stubborn. They've been known to be fairly stubborn for releasing games in certain regions and not translating them and releasing them anywhere else. So that's why Earthbound Beginnings was such a mind-blowing experience that Nintendo would actually do something like that at the time. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because, as I said, because of the current console climate. Talk about that alliteration. Current console climate. Try saying that 5 times fast. But when you look at the upcoming Nintendo Switch, which is, it's got the great potential for stuff like this because of the hybrid handheld portable / home console experience. I know you've got the Wii U as one thing and the 3DS as another, but you can take all those into consideration, especially when you look at the new Nintendo 3DS family. Not the standard 3DS family, not the 2DS family, but the actual new Nintendo 3DS and new Nintendo 3DS XL. Those two both have Super Nintendo Virtual Console support that the previous ones do not. And of course, you've got the Wii U, which has all of that. It might, for some reason, have inferior NES Virtual Console compared to the NES Mini or the NES Classic, but that's mind-blowing in its own right. Now, anyway, back to the actual main topic. So, with all these virtual consoles and digital distributions and all these systems and all these different ways to play old games, not just new games, is now the best time to start for companies, other companies, be it first and third party, to start looking back at some of their previous releases that never were ported or translated or whatever from previous regions and previous languages, and finally release them in some way, shape, or form on whatever platform, be it the Wii U Virtual Console, the new 3DS Virtual Console, be it the Nintendo Switch, be it the PS4, the Xbox One, or the on Steam, whatever. I suppose you could throw in the Vita in there just for the lulz, but yeah, you get what I'm kind of trying to say here. So this explains why, or I think this should explain why, if not, I'm about to do it right now, why I'm using the Secret of Mana 2 footage. Now, Secret of Mana 2 was never released outside of Japan officially. The game does not have an official English translation. I am currently, like many people that have been available for about 17 years now, I am playing a translated version of the ROM, albeit I have it on a repro cartridge, so I'm actually playing it on my Super Nintendo. That's where I'm recording this from. I know there's emulators and all from it too, but you get the idea. So the fact is that I love this game. I've loved this game from the moment I played it many years ago, like maybe 14, 15 years ago, if not more. I don't think I played it originally when it first came out as the translation, but it was so long ago, it's so hard to tell. But I know Secret of Mana is my favorite game of all time. When I found out there was a ROM of Secret of Mana 2, you could believe that's the first thing I went hunting for. As soon as I went ham, I went balls deep, I went balls to the wall. I went big, I went home, whatever you want to call it. As many idioms as possible. That's what I did to find and play that game at the time back then. So it gives you an idea. There's plenty, like there's multiple versions of, or multiple examples, I shouldn't say versions. There's multiple examples of games that have so many things that were released in Japan that were never translated anywhere. If you go onto the Cinemassacre channel, many of you probably know him as the Angry Video Game Nerd. If you go onto his channel, he has other reviews and other videos talking about games that never made it outside of Japan, like what would be Famicom only games or Super Famicom only games. And some of them, I think Godzilla was one of a great examples. He's got multiple examples, but I'm just trying to think of one off the top of my head, where he had or maybe it was Back to the Future, but he had a bunch of games. You've got NES games, you've got SNES games, which were released in Europe and America and were panned of people's favorite series or people's favorite franchises, and they were just crap. And then there was ones that were only released in Japan, and those ones were excellent for some reason that never got translated over. We got the shit ones, but you get the idea. So I mean, you've got games like that, series like that. I'm not just going to limit it to those. There's tons of them out there. You look at Konami, they have a bunch of stuff. Castlevania Rondo of Blood, Dracula X Rondo of Blood, from the TurboGrafx 16 CD or the PC Engine, whatever you want to look at it. Okay, sure, fair enough. It got some sort of ports or some sort of translations, be it on the Wii. It's not the Wii eShop, Wii Virtual Console, or there's the weird PSP version, or there's the really weird inferior Super Nintendo version. But you get the idea. So there's so much out there, especially when it comes to the likes of, say, Earthbound. What would be Earthbound 3 or Mother 3 or Earthbound 2? Well, it would be a weird name because of the naming systems in it. And then, of course, Secret of Mana 2, which is an excellent game that so many people out there should play. But there's tons of others. I mean, just look around. Look on the Cinemassacre channel. Look on Pat the NES Punk or NES Punk channel. You will see what I mean. There's tons of games out there. It's not just the ones I want. So I think this is the perfect opportunity for other developers and other companies and other publishers, first and third party, to finally take a look at some of your old library and think, maybe we can, translate this nice and cheap, release it digitally, and yeah, I think we'll make some serious money off this. Look at the Final Fantasy games, for example. Back in the day, one, I suppose, when you look at the US market, for the longest time, and I said longest time as in up to the mid PlayStation era, you could only get what is 1, 4, and 6. I know they changed the name to 2 and 3 over there, but you couldn't get 2, you couldn't get 3, you couldn't get 5 up until they released the collections and all that on the PS1. But you see what I mean? Those games up until that point had never been translated and sent across. We never got any Final Fantasy games in Europe before 7. So I just negate us completely for that. But you get the idea. So eventually, companies have been doing this with some of their older games, and that was on disc-based media, let alone the actual digital ease of use digital ones we have now. And not to mention, say if you release them on the Nintendo Switch, you can pick it up and go, and then sit down and plug it into your TV and play away. So I'd love to see all this kind of stuff. Especially, I'd love to see some sort of Square Enix published port of Secret of Mana 2, properly officially translated with proper support for whatever console or whatever it is. I would love to see it because it is a fantastic game and it's a sequel to my favorite game of all time. So that's all I can say. In the comment section below, let me know what you think. Do you think it would be a good thing for these companies to do this? Do you think they could do it with minor investment and probably a large gain, good publicity, whatever? Or what games would you like to see? Maybe you have some obscure game in some obscure series, or maybe it's not even obscure, that just never got translated across, but you always wanted. And then, when you do have to play a version of it, you have to play like a Japanese version that you can't read or whatever. Let me know all that anyway in the comments section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter, details in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the rest of the videos in my channel. While we wait till about 10-ish days from now, I can't remember the exact date, until maybe Nintendo completely, surprises us all and announces tons of support for stuff like this on the Switch announcement. We'll see how it goes.